and welcome to yet another episode of Fuse Number 8 TV. I am your host, Betsy Bird, and today I am very, very, very excited because we have a special guest by the name of Laura Ruby, which is so exciting to me. But before we get to any of that, let us first talk about other interesting things. Many things. But of course, oh, here we are, Laura Ruby and the Bone Cap. I just wanted to show you that because it's such a cool cover. But we will talk about that soon. I will get to that in a minute. Hi, hello. But before we get to Laura and her amazing book, I would like to discuss with you another installment of reading too much into picture books. And I'm very pleased because if you saw this piece that was going around the internet, it was from the New Yorker, and it was a New Yorker piece on Sonder Boynton, and it was reading too much into picture books. It was reading too much into But Not the Hippopotamus and the Going to Bed book. Interpretations that were fabulous and weird and fantastic and are very much what I'm trying to do here, which is show that if you read a book to your child over many readings, your adult brain will start making connections that should not be there under any circumstances. And today, there's no better example than The Cat in the Hat Comes Back. Full credit for this one to my husband. I have done some of them before where I credited my brother-in-law, Steve. He was the one who came up with the post-apocalyptic Are You My Mother? And others like that. But this one belongs entirely to Matt. So shout out to Matt on this one. If you are familiar with The Cat in the Hat, then you will realize he does at one point come back because successful book, sequel. This was not a ridiculous thing. This is before his entire empire was built and he became the Cat, Martin Short type guy that he is today. At this point, he was still annoying and fabulous. So very straightforward at first, you know, the kids are shoveling snow like you do. The cat appears. At this point, Sally, who of the two is the only one who deserves a name, apparently, is the one to point out, don't let him in the house. So what does he immediately do? He goes in the house. Then there's the usual going to the bathtub and la-di-la-di-da. And then there's this pink ring. Pink ring. That gets a little crazy because it gets on one thing and another and blah, 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 which is fine. Eventually, the only way to actually get rid of the pink ring is for more and more little cats. But of course, they don't immediately get rid of the pink ring. In fact, they actually shoot it out. They shoot it out into the snow. So here we are with the pink snow. Now, what's so very interesting about this pink snow is that, well, let's just look at this. Now, this book came out, I believe, in 1958. Okay, 1958. And then we have this thing about, oh, there's this menacing pink, this pink menace. This pinkness that just sort of seems to be over these hills, this hilly area. And, well, we will get rid of it. We will get rid of the insidious, creeping pink threat. You can even say that it's pink, but it could even be considered red in some ways. And we will get rid of it. We will get rid of it with our guns. We will get rid of it with our guns. Well, what happens when you shoot the pink stuff with the guns? It says kill snow spots with pop guns. That just could not be, and indeed, it does not. In fact, it makes it much worse. And the problem gets worse and worse. And there is more pink, and it is now becoming insidious, and it is sort of getting everywhere at this point. And the amount of times the word kill they will kill all those spots. I'm absolutely fascinated by this. By the way, there's a mention of little pink pills, but we're not going to go into that. So eventually they get more and more men. Okay, well, let's send in more men. Let's send in more men to get rid of the pink spots. It just doesn't work at all. And to the point where this is now it's just covering the entire country. Now, I wouldn't be completely crazy to suggest that perhaps we are talking about a metaphor for the Vietnam War. Yes, the Vietnam War. Impossible. This book came out, as I mentioned, in 1958. There is no possible way this is a metaphor for the Vietnam War. This is Marvin K. Mooney all over again. If you'll recall, Marvin K. Mooney, will you please go now? The interpretation is that is actually of Richard M. Nixon. not true. He wrote it before Nixon's brouhaha, but he did rewrite it for Nixon later. So you could say, oh, well, this is just a metaphor for the Here you've got Uncle Sam, who keeps sending in more and more and more men until the pink menace is just taken over everywhere. And then they have the special weapon, of course, at the end, the magical, unseen, invisible weapon called the Voom. I'm not going to say what that is. This is not a metaphor for the Vietnam War. Could be for the Korean War, possibly, maybe. But then again, it's a stretch. It's a stretch. So what you're really talking about is something that's, honestly, when you get down to it, can't possibly be the case. This is truly reading too much into this book. But I will tell you that if you read this as a version of Vietnam, you will not be able to unread it that way. And particularly this sequence here, where it says, "Come on, kill those spots, kill the mess," yelled the cats. And then it says later, they put it in pails, and they made high pink hills, pink snowmen, pink snowballs, and little pink pills, which I just love because you could go in an entirely different direction with that one too. Or you could talk about other pink menaces too. It's up to you. So there you go. The Cat in the Hat comes back. One of my favorite crazy interpretations of a book, and one that I can't unsee, and hopefully neither can you. Now today, my sweet children, we are very, very pleased because we have a very special guest who has written a very special book. A book that I would like to point out was actually just, and I don't know if it doesn't mention it here, fascinatingly enough, but is actually been nominated for a little National Book Award. If you do understand, not many books get nominated for the National Book Award, but Laura Ruby is not like other people. She writes fiction for adults, teens, and children, all people, in fact. She is the author of the newly released Bone Gap, seen here, the Edgar-nominated children's mystery Lily's Ghosts, the ALA Quick Pick for Teens Good Girls, a collection of interconnected short stories about blended families for adults, I'm Not Julia Roberts, and the middle grade trilogy York. She is on the faculty of the Hamline University Masters in Writing for Children program, and she makes her home in the Chicago area, which means I, at some point, am going to be trying to tap her for an event. Poor woman. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Betsy Bird.
No problem. And you're in the Chicago area. Where are you?
I am. I'm actually in River Forest, which is right next to Oak Park. You're in Evanston?
I am in Evanston, but I was just in Oak Park seeing Candy Fleming and Eric Roman.
Yes, I know them well.
Excellent. So I didn't know you were so close.
Yeah, yeah, like 10 minutes away from them.
Wow.
You're going to have to see me very soon, or else she'll have to come to see you very soon.
Hey, man, Book Expo's coming up, too, so we're all going to be around everywhere, I assume.
Is that here this year? Oh.
Yeah, it's here. It's here in Chicago.
I did not know that.
Yes, it moved here to join us. Isn't that sweet? I love this. I moved to Chicago, and then the Cubs start winning things, and Book Expo comes here.
You brought us luck. You brought us luck.
Coming up, Bird. Yeah. So let's go back to The Bone Gap, the book that is getting the accolades. Oh, the accolades. Oh, the multiple accolades, which I'll get into in a bit. But can you just, in your own words, describe to me what this book is? What is the plot of this book?
Okay, so the book is about a 17-year-old boy named Finn who witnesses the kidnapping of his brother's girlfriend, but nobody believes that he saw what he saw. Everyone just believes Rosa left of her own volition, that he could not have seen what he saw, because everybody leaves Bone Gap. Everyone leaves. And so, of course, she left too. And so the book alternates between Finn's point of view and Rosa's point of view. So you see where Finn is and what Finn is doing, but then you see where Rosa is, who took her, and who is keeping her, maybe. I also throw in a couple of other voices just to keep the readers on their toes, because I like to do that. So it's predominantly, I guess, I would call it a magical sort of mystery with bees. A lot of bees. Many, many bees. Who could be self-aware, I'm not sure.
Ooh. So we've got bees in your book, and we've got the wasps in the John class.
I always think it's funny when people sort of there's something in the culture or something in the air, and everyone starts writing about there's hives all over the place, which is kind of cool. I'm looking forward to that book.
Oh, that book's creepy.
I that's why I want to read it. It looks.
I think you should. It's basically a book where he looked at a wasp nest. He must have. The author looked at a wasp nest and just thought to himself, "I could fit a baby in there." Like that's.
Oh God, that is creepy.
That's the first place your brain goes, right?
That one thing. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Gives you a tone for it. But your book doesn't have any babies in.
No, there are no babies in the hive. No, maybe my bees are a little sweeter. Well, bees are a little sweeter than wasps.
Bees are sweeter. My mother's forever correcting me when I see a yellow jacket or something, and I'm saying like, "Oh, look at that bee." She's like, "That's not a bee." I was like, "Yeah."
Wasp. See, although I'd have to say that the bee on the cover, I do like this bee, but I like her especially because she's got that wicked stinger. I like the wicked stinger. So she looks kind of cute, but she's
packing heat.
Yeah, she is. See, I like that.
Yeah. Very nice. Now, when it comes to YA novels, I honestly, my specialty is usually children's, so I need my go-to sources on learning about things generally, and those would be Bookshelves of Doom and the Book Smugglers. Pretty much just rely on them. I do read other people occasionally, but mostly it's them. Yeah. And so I had to see what they had to say about your book, because I was very curious, because I had not seen what they had to say about your book. And I'm pleased to say they both adored it.
Which was nice.
Yeah, which is makes my job so much easier. I have to say, like, when everybody loves my guest book, it makes it easier on me. It's good. And so let's see. When Bookshelves of Doom said that, let me see here. Bone Gap deserves every single dollop of praise it has received. Nice use of dollop, Layla Roy. It is a warm book, clearly written with love, but it's also full of rage, and that rage belongs entirely to the female characters. Rage about cultural assumptions and expectations, rage about the idea that a woman's identity is defined by the men in her life, rage about being judged entirely by one's appearance, rage for being treated as a possession, as a thing that can be owned. It'll be a cathartic read for some and an eye-opening one for others. I tried cutting that down, but I had to do the whole thing because I think she just makes amazing points in that. And very much along the same lines, when the Book Smugglers wrote about it, they said the book was about fairy tales, self-image, the heavy burden that beauty can be, and the pernicious ways we look at and treat women. Would you, in light of these comments on the book itself, would you call this a feminist fairy tale? Would you define it some other way? How would you define it in terms of fairy tales and women and interpretations of women? Easy to go.
You know, I love feminist fairy tale. Totally works for me. That's great. I love fairy tales, and there's feminist themes that kind of run through all my books. And people have called this book magical realism. The publisher calls it that. I did listen to the Book Smugglers podcast when they were discussing this book, and I wasn't sure if I should. I'm like, what if they hate it? It'll be so sad. I'll be crying. But they were really nice. But they had this big debate on whether or not it was magical realism, and they were basically like, no, it totally isn't. This is straight up fantasy.
Yeah, I even mentioned that in the print review too. They were like, people say it's magical realism, it's not. And it was like, okay, I'm just saying.
And you know what? I'm cool with that too. Like, totally cool with that. The funny thing is, I did not set out to write a book with any magic in it. I was thinking about this at first, when I first started working on this, as a mystery. It was a mystery. A girl disappears. Somebody sees something he's not sure of what he sees, and nobody believes him. It's a mystery. And it had no magic in it. And one of my early readers was Franny Billingsley. If you know Franny Billingsley's work, she wrote Chime, she wrote Folk Keeper, and she read an early draft. And I'm sure she said many, many, many brilliant things that were insightful and fabulous and stuff about the manuscript. But what I remember, what sticks in my head, is that she basically handed it back to me and she said, I want more magic. And I said, but this is not a book about magic. There's no magic, and this is not a magical book. And she said, are you sure about that? And when I went back in and started doing the revision and really started looking at it, she was absolutely right. It was like the magic was there, but I had to hold it out enough to look at it. And as soon as I started digging into the setting of the world of the book, I found all sorts of magic in it because it's set in the cornfields of southern Illinois. And I don't know if you've now had the opportunity to drive through the cornfields of downstate Illinois.
I have seen them in pictures. The corn maze. It's now corn maze season. So
yeah. So I mean, I'm even just talking before they cut it down into the mazes when it's just the tall corn. I've done a lot of school visits in downstate Illinois, and you're driving alone for hours in corn, and you start feeling a little disconnected and disembodied, and you start looking at the corn and thinking, what's in there? Anything could be in there. I don't even know what could be in. You could hide all sorts of stuff in there. And then I started thinking about, the farming towns and all the animals and the horses and the cats and the bees, which I am obsessed with, and I've been obsessed with bees since I was a little kid. And everything started to seem magical and sparkle in this sort of magical way. So, thank you, Franny Billingsley, for making sure I didn't leave my book a, straight realist, whatever the heck I was thinking when I first started.
Excellent. Yes, well, and Franny Billingsley, also a National Book Award.
Yeah, yes.
Nominee, I can't remember. Oh, it was that weird year, so I don't even remember.
Yeah, she was a finalist that year.
She was a finalist that year. That was the whole debate over the winner thing. Okay, yeah, I remember that.
That was its own something.
A whole different podcast for that. Yes, not today. So you're sort of tackling in this book kind of the dual nature of fairy tales and small town assumptions, both good and bad, with sort of one stroke of your pen. Right. And are you from a small town originally yourself, or / a community that contains the same qualities as a small town?
I am not from a small town at all. I am from a very large suburb in northern New Jersey, which is really where I grew up. Yeah. So the setting was completely new for me, the rural setting. But one of my fascinations has always been the stories that we tell each other about the world, or rather the lies that we tell each other about the world. There's this great book. I don't know if you've heard of it. I pulled it out of my bookshelf. It's called Wonder Book. It is edited and written by Jeff Vandermeer. So
no, I do not know this thing. No.
It's a writing book. And it's really great. It's really beautiful and has lots of really great illustrations in it. I love it. But there's this essay in it by Catherine, I think, but her last name I think is Valenti. I hope.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So the girl who circumnavigated fairyland in a ship of her own making. Yeah, so she wrote this great essay, and it's called "What Everyone Knows." In it, she calls herself a sort of amateur folklorist, and when she thinks about world building, she thinks a lot about the folklore of the worlds that she's building, and she talks about folklore and its purpose in culture, and how folklore transmits information from one generation to the other. So she says when she's thinking about telling a story, she thinks about what everyone in that story knows, So like, the king is bad, winter is coming, magic is real, they only come out at night, like that sort of thing. And she says that drama comes out of characters finding out that what everyone knows is or isn't true. And what they do with that information, how they process that information. So in my book, I was thinking a lot about what everyone knows in this tiny little community of Bone Gap specifically, and then also in the larger world of the story. So, for example, Finn, who is the witness to this crime, he witnesses this crime. Everyone knows he didn't see what he saw. Everyone knows his perception is off. Everyone knows that the people you love leave, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you can never get them back. They are gone. Everyone knows this. And everyone knows that his brother Sean, who is this big hulking dude, who's like, I was imagining him as like Hugh Jackson's Wolverine, only bigger and crankier. Okay. Everybody knows that Sean is a hero. He's a real man, and real men never feel weak, and they never feel desperate, and they never feel sad, and they never exhibit any pain, and their job is to save you, and they will always save you, and everyone knows that. And then kind of going back to your question about feminism, what everyone knows about the women in my book, Rosa, who is the girl who was taken, and also the beekeeper's daughter, Petey, who actually has a very unusual face. So what everyone knows is that that the only way you measure a woman's worth is through her beauty. Beauty is the only commodity a woman has. And if a man wants a woman, she has no say in the matter. Her opinion of it means little. And your desires are not your own, and and you probably shouldn't even have any desires anyway, because they're completely irrelevant. And everybody knows this. And these characters are told these things repeatedly over and over and over again throughout the book. So a lot of the book is about these people struggling against what everybody knows and trying to come to their own truths about the world.
Good answer.
Thanks.
I'm also hearing the Leonard Cohen song "Everybody Knows" now in my head.
I know. It's a great essay. If you could actually read this, I love this essay.
I have to find this book. This sounds like a great book. It's such a good answer. My God. Now I'm gonna confess to you that as a teen, I loved stories where a girl was kidnapped by a magical guy who was in love with her. These would include Labyrinth, Phantom of the Opera, any basic Persephone myth.
Yeah.
The guy grabbed somebody and took her underground. That was awesome. Beauty and the Beast. They all would apply. When I was older and I thought I might try to write a YA, I thought, I could do a YA update of Phantom of the Opera. And I looked into it and realized the original story is creepy as hell. It's super creepy. And you know that on some level, but you can't make it good. You can. I've seen amazing recent takes on Phantom of the Opera in YA that have been great because they just completely went in a weird direction that I never would have had to do. But it's still super creepy, and they acknowledge it. They're like, yeah, this, like the Twilight, this is creepy. You can't uncreepify it.
You can't make it. Yeah.
You can't make it good. He's watching you when you sleep. It's not a good thing. It's not. It's not cute. You tackle this subject pretty much head on. So how did that element of the story come to you?
This story came to me in so many like little disparate pieces, and it in a chaotic fashion, and I felt my way through it the whole time. So I started, the first kernel of this book was an article that my late father-in-law gave me about a woman who lost her son at the mall. I believe it was a son, and then couldn't describe him. She couldn't tell anyone what he looked like, and so I had that in my head, with this lost boy. And then I had these cornfields, like I was saying, because I was doing a lot of school visits in downstate Illinois, and I corn on the brain, and then the disappeared girl, and all these other elements, bees and a horse and all this stuff. And I had like a full draft, but those early drafts were such a mess. I wouldn't have been able to describe to you what they were about. I don't know. There's a lot of animals and crazy bees, and I don't know what's happening. And I remember I was working really hard on another book that was actively trying to kill me. I'm serious. This other book was trying to kill me. I am certain of it. It was a murderous book. And it was, I didn't know what to do with that one. And I decided I had to leave my desk. I just couldn't even look at this thing anymore. And I went running. And I was running, and I said to myself, you do not have to think about that terrible murderous book right now. You can think about anything you want. What do you want to think about? And I thought, you know what, let me like tool around with Bone Gap in my head for a while. because I knew there was something that I thought was intriguing in there, but I couldn't put my finger on. I couldn't figure it out. Like I just couldn't figure it out. So I was kind of drilling down to the inciting incident. Like what sets off the whole story? Where does it actually begin? And then I thought to myself, well, it's when this woman, this young woman, beautiful young woman, is sort of ripped from the cornfields like Persephone. And then I stopped running, like I hit a wall or was doing some terrible mime routine, and said to myself, wait, is it like Persephone? Is it like Persephone? And I ran back to my house and I brought up the document and all the analogs were there. I had written something. I've always been obsessed with the Persephone myth, just like you just said. But when I say obsessed, I mean irritated, because the Persephone myth is not about her. It's like about her mom, poor mom, and it's about stupid Zeus and these terrible jerks who steal women. And it always frustrated me so much. You never knew what Persephone thought about anything, and a lot of people try to make that romantic too. Well, of course, she wanted to leave her mother because what teenage girl wants to hang out with her mom? She's in love with the Lord of the Underworld or whatever, the god of the underworld. And I always thought that was, I don't know, I don't like it. I didn't like it. So I always viewed it as a straight up kidnapping. And I had unconsciously done that. I had unconsciously retold or used or loosely based this story on that myth. And then I also realized that I had braided another one, Cupid and Psyche, all the way through it in another way. So there's sort of two myths kind of skating around underneath here that sort of form kind of the basis for the story, if I could say. So as soon as I figured that out, like as soon as I realized that all of these analogs were there, that everything kind of came clearer to me. Like I could see the shape of it in a way that I hadn't been able to before. And so I dumped the book that was trying to kill me. Stupid book. Never go back to it.
It was something like Little Bunny Smithers Goes Out for a Walk, and it was like a 32-page picture book or something.
No, it totally was. No, actually, there was murderous children, so it was fine. So it's good. We don't need to go back. We don't need to.
It wasn't a picture book.
No, wasn't it? No, it was. Maybe that's why I didn't. No,
see, that's your problem.
Murderous rabbits. It was. I dumped that. I got rid of that. And then I could actually really start revising in earnest, in a meaningful way. But I'm not, it was like almost a complete accident. I was just running and thinking and sorting, and it was there. It was weird how much it was there. I mean, I have a character that's kind of loosely based on Zeus, but his name was Valentine. Like it was there. It was there before I knew it was there. That's like, it's weird. It's almost creepy.
But I just love stories like that. Like how the human brain just puts and then just waits for you apparently to figure it out.
And so they have the book that was trying to kill me, and the book is sitting there going, "Why are you so dumb? What is wrong with you?" So, yeah,
that's great. Now, so some people get their ideas in the shower. You get yours running. That's very good.
Oh, I also get them in the showers. There are times I take 4 or 5 showers a day. It's really, I don't know. I do that too, definitely.
So generally speaking, you let's talk about your writing aside from this book. You started out writing for kids. This is loosely, you go back and forth. So this is not a timeline or anything, but you started out writing for kids. You traipsed into the world of adult publishing. You've done middle grade. You're now doing quite a few YA things. So apparently there's also this fantasy series that is middle grade that is also happening. Throw in a couple board books and later you got the whole, range of ages basically from like birth to death. At this point, my question was going to be prior to reading your bio, which probably should have read before I wrote the question, and And now I can't, but at least you can talk about this thing yourself. I was going to ask, are you like now, like you're committed like YA, you're committed to YA, or are you also, you're still flipping back and forth between the different genres, the different age levels?
I think I'm flipping. I started out writing for adults. I started writing short stories for adults. That's what I thought real writers did. That we all wrote these dark stories with epiphanies at the end and published them in literary magazines that would give you review copies in payment. And I did that. And I did that for a number of years. And those stories were the ones that were collected in this collection that I published. But the first novel I wrote was a YA, which was like, oh, so I guess I'm writing this now. And I always loved YA. I read a ton of it when I was a kid, and my first job was in a library. And so I was a page, and I used to just, when I was supposed to be shelving, maybe I was reading a lot. So so it was not a shock to me that I would write a YA. But then the first book I published was a middle grade. So I'm all over the place. I find that switching back and forth keeps me fresh. It keeps me interested. I get less worn out when I can kind of settle into a different kind of consciousness or life space. You know, the lessons that you learn at different ages are so different. Mm-hmm. And, you know, right now I'm working on a middle grade at big fantasy adventure. So there's a lot of world building, but also the characters are 12. And there's something so amazing about 12-year-olds. They're so smart, and they haven't yet been poisoned by their own little hormones. Or maybe just a little poisoned, but not totally poisoned. A little smidge of hormones. And they're just figuring out their abilities and their space in the world and how the world works. And it's both amazing, but then also a little bit sad when they start shedding, their childhood or leaving that behind. And it's such a wonderful space to write about. But I would imagine, when I'm done writing this series, it's a trilogy, that I'm going to be going, 12-year-olds, oh, who can stand them? Let's find a 17-year-old who is completely obsessed with their own navel and write about that for a while. Or some, incredibly bored housewife or something. I like to flip around. I think it's more interesting. I'm sure it's really irritating for my agent, my publisher.
Oh yeah.
Who might wish I'd stick with one thing. Sorry, it's like Laura Ruby marketing nightmare. That would be. But I just like it. And I read that way too. I read across the board. I read all over the place. It's more fun that way.
More healthy, quite frankly. Yeah.
That's what I think. If I could write picture books, I would totally write picture books.
Oh, you're thin, you. Yeah, just give it time.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna give my agent a
So what about the children that you've been writing for? Sounds like a delightful one. Well, you just took my last question, which was what are you working on next? So you're working on this fantasy series next.
Oh yeah, this fantasy series. But I also have I'm also doing at the same time. I have 3 YA novels that are in various states of completion, and I'm trying to figure out which one I love. Fall in love with. That will be maybe the follow-up for Bone Gap. All of them have a little bit of magic in them, and I'm just trying to. I don't know yet. I don't know who I love yet.
That's a fun problem to have, though, I would think.
It is, because I like them all.
Good.
Yeah. But I'm sitting at a distance, and at any minute now, I'm gonna be really into one of them. So I'm waiting for that. But a YA will be soon, at some point, as soon as I finish this first middle grade book in this fantasy and come up with a title.
Cool. All right. Well, that's all the questions I have for you. I'm out, man. I'm done. I'm spent. I don't know about you.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on here. My gosh, this was so much good stuff about the writing process and the human brain and ideas and working them together with a manuscript. And this is delightful. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank Thank you, and thanks for dealing with the technical difficulties up front.
Oh, that's fine. It happens every time. As long as they're off camera, it's all good.
It's good. And one day we will meet in person.
Yes, we will do that thing. And
awesome.
With faces
With
to one another.
actual real faces. That'll be
Actual real faces. That's my goal. Yeah. All right, everyone. Well, let me just do a little recap here and let people know that, of course, Laura Ruby is the author of The Bone Gap, which has been getting star after star after star after star after star, and well-deserved, too. I would like very much, by the way, to thank the good people at HarperCollins Children's Books for bringing her here today. You can see they have many imprints. All of them are lovely. And they have many books, by coincidence, quite lovely as well. This is also sponsored in part by School Library Journal, which, FYI, you can get it on your iPad on the go if you have a subscription to SLJ. If you don't have a subscription to SLJ, get one, and you can get a lovely online subscription. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. If you want to see all the archived episodes, most of them are up, but I need to get a couple of the ones we just did up, but there are others as well. And of course, thank you, Laura, for joining us.
Thanks, Betsy.
All right, have a good one.
You too.